Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the homestead. Well, spring is on its way, and so are our meat chicks. They are in transit on the way to the homestead, so we need to hurry up and get some things done.
Yeah, they should either be here tomorrow or the following day. Just depends on how the shipping takes.
So we need to get the brooder ready, but we also need to finish the chicken tractors. So we're hoping to finish both those things today and bring you along.
Now, normally we raise our broiler chickens starting in April, but this year we've decided to start them early because of some of the things that are going on right now and people stocking up on things. We wanted to make sure that we were able to get our chicks to us and that we'd be able to get the feed that we need to be able to feed them. So we're able to get all of those things ready ahead of time. So that's why we're starting them early this year. We're
starting them about 6 or 7 weeks earlier than we normally do.
Right, which hopefully means they'll be done before we get into busy planting time. But either way, we feel like it's a good thing to do early this year. And it just makes us feel good that we're going to have that extra meat in the freezer.
Now this year we are raising Cornish cross meat chickens. We've raised both the Cornish cross and the Freedom Rangers, and we choose to continue raising Cornish cross.
We actually did a very in-depth series on raising both of them side by side. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch that. We break it down week by week how each breed grew, and we even did a taste test at the end.
And if you're thinking about raising Cornish cross for the very first time, Kevin did a fantastic step-by-step series about how to raise them also, so make sure you check that out.
So it's been a while since we've been in what we call our brooder barn, which is this part of the barn behind me. And so we need to go in there, we need to get everything set up so that when the post office calls and says the Cornish cross chicks are here, we can go get them and bring them back home. All right, let's see what condition it's in. All right, well, it's nothing fancy in here, but this area works really well for brooding the chicks. We actually have this room divided into two because oftentimes we're brooding two types of birds at the same time, which is actually going to happen again this year because we're going to put the Cornish cross back here where they'll stay for the first 3 weeks of their lives. And over here will be our new layer chickens. And we just recently did a video where we showed you that we were putting some eggs in the incubator. And those chicks, when they hatch, will go over on this side. So today we're going to get this back part set up. And we're going to get ready for these Cornish cross chickens.
Well, the first thing that we need to do is put down clean bedding. We are using pine shavings this time. Sometimes we use straw, sometimes we use hay. But for these little chicks, I really do prefer the pine shavings. Becomes very compressed. We want to break it up as much as we can, and then we'll spread it out so that there's a nice even amount of bedding all over this area. Now we're going to have these chicks in here for the first 3 weeks. And after that they'll go out to the new chicken tractors. That's when they'll have enough feathers to stay warm enough on their own to be outside.
Alright, now that we have the bedding down, we can put some of the supplies in here. We have a basic setup that we use every time we brood chicks, and it works out really well. The first thing is one of these water heater pans. We put that down, and that's actually where the chicks' water will go in there. And then one of these pans that, I think I just bought this at Walmart. It's for like putting your shoes on when you come in the house. And this works really well for their feeders. And that keeps that stuff out of the bedding. And that way if they make a mess, it stays on the pan with the water. If they spill water everywhere, it stays there and it doesn't get the whole bedding wet. As far as feeders go, when they're real little, we start them off on this style feeder right here. Now I'm not going to fill these today because we still have potentially a couple days before we're going to get them. So, but these will just go like this, and that'll be plenty of space for all 50 of the chicks that we're going to get, at least for the first week or so, and then we'll move them up to a bigger feeder. Let me get their waterer. We'll put that over here. Actually, it looks like the waterer might need to come in the house to be cleaned before we get the chicks. So it happens when it sits for a whole year. But basically the waterer will just go here, and then, like I said, that way if they spill a lot, it stays in this pan and it doesn't get all of the wood shavings wet. It really keeps things a lot cleaner and it keeps the chicks a lot healthier. Alright, now that those are all set up, the last thing that we need to set up is our heat lamps. Now we actually use two different heat lamps when we do chicks. We use a red heat lamp that we leave on overnight, and we use a white heat lamp that we leave on during the day. Now it's just a basic setup here, but I like to, basically it just hangs on the nail up here, and then I like to put one of these clamps on here too, and that just makes sure it stays on the nail. We've never had a problem with this. I know some people can be leery of using heat lamps. I've even heard of people who have burned down their barns using them, but we've never had a problem. Now the reason that it's nice to have two different heat lamps, one white and one red, is that during the day obviously they have plenty of light, but overnight the red light gives them more of that feeling of just, you know, the normal cycle of day and night. And I think it just probably makes them rest a little better. I don't know. I'm not a chicken scientist, but to me it seems like it makes sense. So this is our basic setup. Now that this is ready, we know that when they call from the post office, we can just go and get them. So, it's supposed to be a gorgeous day. Let's get back to work on the chicken tractors and see if we can get those done.
Well, that is a good job done. We are definitely ready for our chicks to arrive by mail. As soon as they arrive, we'll be able to go get them and put them in there, and everything will be great. But now we need to get back to work on the new chicken tractors.
I showed you guys in the last video that I was building some new chicken tractors, and several of you had pointed out that I needed more bracing on the frame of the tractors. It's not that I had neglected to do that. I actually didn't do it on purpose, because at the time that I built those frames, I didn't know exactly where the metal and the wire was going to go. So we're going to have kind of a boxed in area on one end and an open wire area on the other end. And I didn't know how big each of those sections was going to be, so I didn't put that bracing until today. We're going to do that today now that I think I have everything figured out, and we'll get that all taken care of.
We're also going to be installing the wire around the sides and a little bit up on the top, along with the metal that's going to go on the top and around one side.
So here's where we left off on the last video. So there's a few things that we need to do today before we can start putting the metal roofing and the hardware cloth on. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put a pole from here down at the 4-foot mark on each side. When we put the metal on, one half of this is going to be solid metal, just like on the roof, and the other half is going to be the hardware cloth or the wire. Now on the top, we've decided to go 6 feet with the metal roof, and then just a little bit, just 2 feet of wire on the top. That'll give them a little bit better ventilation, but give them plenty of area to be covered completely if it rains. So we're going to need to make those changes real quick, and then we'll be able to start putting on the hardware cloth and the metal roof. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut 2 of these pieces of 2x2 to 22 inches long. And then we'll take these in, we'll install those at the 4-foot mark on the tractors. Alright, let's go put those on. Alright, now that those are in, we need to move this pole here over to the 6-foot mark. When I originally did this, I spaced them evenly, but I've changed my mind about how big I want the roof to be. So basically we're going to move this down to 6 feet because we're going to have 6 feet of metal roof, and then from here down will just be wire on the top. So on this tractor I've installed a latch here in the middle, but I noticed that as of right now it doesn't really do much good. I can still just lift the lid open, and I think that is because I need a piece I need a board that goes across here to hold this more stable. I think if I do that, the latch will work the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to add a piece there on the inside, and we'll see if that helps make that latch lock tight. Alright, now that we added that board, this latch I think should be nice and tight. Let's test it out. You can see now I can pick up the entire tractor and that doesn't come off, so that's perfect. Alright, now we can move on to start putting the wire and the metal roof on.
So now we're going to start putting on the hardware cloth. We're going to use this hardware cloth all on this side here, along the front there, and to the same point in the back. We're also going to line this top part here with the hardware cloth. Now we're using 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch hardware cloth. We actually got this on Amazon. And in the past we've had problems with raccoons being able to reach their arms into the chicken tractors and pull the chickens out, basically part by part. So that's why we are using the hardware cloth rather than just chicken wire or something larger. So this roll is 24 inches by 100 feet. And it's been hard for us to find locally in big rolls like this, so we were pretty excited when we were able to find it on Amazon. So we're gonna get started attaching this.
So I think we'll do all of our cutting right away, at least for the pieces that are gonna go around the sides. We know we need 2 pieces that are 4 feet long and 1 piece that's 5 feet long. And I do advise that you wear gloves when you work with this stuff.
I need to get some on.
Because it is sharp. Now I found that the easiest way to cut the hardware cloth is just with a tin snips like this, but it depends on how heavy of a gauge you get. This is 19 gauge, just so you guys can have some idea if you're looking online. This is about the thinnest that I would go. Any thinner than this and I'd worry about predators being able to rip it off. Well, we have all of our pieces of hardware cloth cut. We're going to be using 5/8 inch staples, and we're just going to staple this all the way around. We're going to put the hardware cloth first, so that when we put the pieces of metal, the metal will cover the edges of the hardware cloth and have less chance of it being sharp. Although we did try to cut them as smoothly as we could. Alright, well that's it. All of the wire is on. Now we can move on to putting on the metal roofing. So now for the roof and the rest of the sides, we're going to be using some of this metal. This is actually the old roof off of our barn. When we first moved here, the roof needed to be replaced, and I had them just leave all of the metal here for me. And this stuff has come in handy. I'm actually sad that we're getting down to the end of it. I've used it for so many different things around the homestead. But we've got enough left to at least finish these chicken tractors. So I'm going to start by cutting 2 6-foot lengths. Those will be on the top. But they're a little bit short, so I'm actually going to use even a little more of old stuff from the barn, and I'm going to use a piece of ridge cap down the middle. I'll show you that when we get to it. It may not look the prettiest, but it's going to work, and it's going to save me from having to waste even more of this metal. Alright, so 2 6-foot pieces to start. I just used the same tin snips that we used on the hardware cloth. Now you can see that these weren't quite wide enough, but we still had an extra leftover piece of the ridge cap from the barn. That just happens to be the perfect size to cover that spot up. So we're just going to put that right on top. Alright, we've got 2 pieces of metal left, and then this tractor will be almost done. Alright, so all the metal and all the wire is on. Let's open this up and you can see from the inside what it'll look like for the chickens. So you can see that they'll have a nice, completely enclosed area to get out of the rain if they need to. It'll also, give them a spot to kind of retreat if for some chance there is a predator trying to get in. But also plenty of area out here where they can get in the sunshine and, plenty of airflow. So I really think this is a good mix of covered and open. And I think this is going to work out perfectly for the broilers. Last thing we need to do is put some rope handles on so we can have a way to move it. We'll get it out of the barn and show you what it looks like in the grass. Well, I bet you guys didn't know that as we were building one on video for you guys, we were actually building 2 of them so that they're both done and ready for the Cornish cross chicks.
Well, now that we have these outside, we're even more pleased with the way they turned out. We think they're going to be fabulous, and in just 3 weeks, well, maybe 3.5 weeks, we'll have chickens to actually go in here. You can see there really is a good amount of space in there, and that's one of the concerns that we heard from you guys on our first video, is if there's going to be enough space inside here for 25 chickens. Now I want to assure you that we have followed the same square footage per bird as Joel Salatin, who's like the godfather of pastured poultry. So we feel confident with the amount of space that we'll have in here for those chickens. Plus, these chicken tractors are even a little bit bigger than our old chicken tractors, and they held 25 chickens really well. Now, the other concern that you guys expressed to us in our first video is whether or not the chickens will fly out of here when we're adding food and adding water. And I want to remind you that we are going to be raising Cornish cross chickens, and they really just are not very motivated to fly at all. They might run from one side to another, but they become big quickly and don't attempt to fly, and really don't fly very well at all. So we're not too worried about that.
Well, we're glad that you guys joined along as I was able to complete my first project in the new workshop. Sarah was a great help today getting this all done. It made getting the second one done so much faster having some help.
So you guys, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below if you enjoy what you're seeing, and share this video and all of our videos with people that you know. And until next time, thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.